Today at 1, the COVID inquiry praises the rollout of vaccines as an extraordinary feat, which may have saved almost 500,000 lives during the pandemic. But the inquiry report also says more could have been done to improve the take-up of the vaccine in poorer communities and for some ethnic minorities. Good afternoon. In the last hour, a report from the inquiry into the COVID pandemic has said that the rollout of vaccines may have saved the lives of almost 500,000 people. It says the way the jabs were developed and deployed so quickly was an extraordinary feat. But it also says action is needed to restore trust in communities which saw a lower uptake of the vaccine. Here's our health reporter, Jim Reid.
March 2021. In one single day, almost 1 million people were given their COVID vaccine.
This is just a relief to be having this vaccine. It's just setting us free.
I think it's a good idea to try and get back to normal. I think it will make people feel safe.
Last year, the COVID inquiry took evidence about those jabs and the drugs to treat the disease. It heard from the politicians in charge.
We've learnt a huge amount because of the success of the vaccine programme.
The officials who made it happen.
It was the vaccine that will have saved more lives than any other around the world.
And the most senior scientists in the country.
People were dying, and we had to put the brakes on that.
The chair, Baroness Hallett, has now published her findings. In a 280-page report, she said, overall, the rollout of vaccines and drugs was an extraordinary feat and one of the success stories of the pandemic. But she said take-up of the vaccine was much lower in some communities and among some ethnic groups, something that must be addressed before any future pandemic. And the report says the authorities must now rebuild confidence in vaccines and take stronger action to counter false information spread online and on messaging apps.
The discovery, development and approval of new vaccines can take between 10 and 20 years. But within a year of its first case of COVID-19, the UK had developed the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine and had authorised access to 2 more, the Pfizer-BioNTech and the Moderna vaccines.
You keep me smiling, don't you? There's my good girl.
The report also looked at support for those who, in very rare cases, were left with side effects.
Pages and pages and pages.
Kerry Clarkson is applying to the vaccine damage payment scheme after being given the Oxford AstraZeneca jab.
As a group, would really like an acknowledgement, an apology. I feel after 5 years of battling, it's kind of being swept under the carpet now that COVID's been and gone. But people who have suffered vaccine damage are still suffering from it.
Today's report calls for urgent reform of that government support scheme and an increase in payments. This is the 4th report of 10 to be published by the inquiry, all into different aspects of COVID. The idea is to better prepare the country for any future pandemic.
So, Jim, overall, this report is very positive about the rollout of the vaccines during the pandemic, but also saying there are lessons to be learned.
I think that's a fair way of putting it, Ben. They use a figure in this report, 475,000. That's how many lives, they say, may have been saved in the UK alone by the rollout of these vaccines. And they say the development of new drugs like dexamethasone and an old steroid repurposed to treat very sick COVID patients may have also saved tens of thousands of lives in this country, 1 million worldwide. But as you say, there are also lessons to learn, 3 in particular. They talk about how the uptake of that vaccine was much lower in certain groups, particularly disadvantaged groups, poorer areas of the country and among certain ethnic minorities. They talk about online misinformation, how the government must do much more to counter that, particularly being spread on messaging apps online as opposed to social media. And they also talk about that vaccine damage payment scheme. So this is for the small number of people who did suffer very serious harm after taking a vaccine. They recommend that the payment there should be almost doubled from 120,000 to at least 200,000. So overall, very positive on the vaccine rollout. But as you say, certainly some lessons that can still be learned. Back to you.